the next area we're going to look at is refining some of the areas of our character. Now before I start, the most important lesson here, make sure you save. I've just lost my entire project because I had a little crash and nothing was saved. I'm going to grab that entire section, I think. Let's have a look. Oh no! Oh no! So before moving on, make sure you save. Control S and save that character. Save your character somewhere. I'll call this tutorial character. Just make sure you've saved your character. Don't be like me. Don't lose your entire project. I've just had to recreate this. I think it looks very similar to what it was before, but let that be a lesson to you. I've had to learn that lesson. Don't let it happen to you. Save and keep pressing that Control S every time you do something. You don't want to lose your progress. Alright, now moving on to the refinement of these areas. I'm going to start with hands, the hands of my character. Now, I'm going to make humanoid hands for this character, which generally is quite a nice way to model this. And I think hands, or at least humanoid hands, is something that a lot of people ask how you do it, so I'm going to do that. However, it's important to realise that your character may look different to my character. If you're creating quite a big monster, you don't want it to have little human hands, because I imagine that would look a little bit jarring. So it's up to you whether or not you implement these different things. The first character, or the first couple of characters that I ever made, I'll put some pictures on screen now, they didn't actually have hands, they didn't even have different heads. They were just these low poly characters which were rough versions of myself, and they were just in my games because they were low poly and quite cute little characters. So again, it's up to you how much of this you want to implement. However, like I said, I'm going to go with hands. So to do this, I'm not actually going to use my character's body at all. What I'm going to do, and make sure you're not in edit mode for this, make sure you're in object mode and not clicking your character, Shift A, and I'm going to spawn in a cube. So let's just bring this over here a second. And here we go. So this cube is going to form my character's hands. So I'm going to start off at the bottom of the hand. So let's make this a little bit smaller. That should do. So I'm just going to grab this top face and just expand it just a little bit. Now this, what I'm picturing here, is where the wrist sort of grows into the hand. I'm going to come up a little bit. This will be the mid hand. There, and then just one more. Now that's the palm of my character's hand. I know it doesn't look like it right now. It doesn't look like much of anything, but it will be. It's going to form the character's hand. So like I said, the wrist sort of comes down here, grows up into this hand here. The thumb's going to come off the side here, and the fingers are going to come off the top. So let's tackle these fingers first. I'm going to use Control R to loop cut in here. Now I'm going to do this 3 times. So scroll up once, scroll up twice. So I've got 3 loop cuts here. I'm going to click to enable that. Again, it's important. What does your character look like? What should your character's hands look like? Now there's lots of different styles here. Obviously humanoid hands tend to have 4 fingers and a thumb, but if you build something like Simpsons, for example, where they've only got 3 fingers, you may be designing a character that may have 2 fingers. It's completely up to you. It's just important you do this in the style of your character. Don't just copy what I'm doing. Now the fingers are going to grow from these 4 faces here. So before growing these, I'm just going to grab these vertices. I'm just going to lower them a little bit there. Maybe lower these a little bit, and then where the little finger is going to be, lower that as well. Once I got the general shape, then I'm going to select those 4 faces. I'm going to use Alt E, and I'm going to extrude individual faces. Here we go. Fingers can come up. Let's go there. Lovely. That'll do for now. I'm now going to go into these individual faces. I'm going to just scale them down just a little bit. And then I'll probably also reposition them a little bit too. So if I look here, that one's probably going to stay down a little bit more. And this index finger, the pointer, there we go, can go there as well. So now, if you look what I've done there, I've naturally just lowered these a little bit too. If you look at your hand, I'm assuming everyone's got slightly different length fingers, so I'm just representing that as well in the model. So once they're there, I'm going to grab the tips again, and let's extrude once more. Same again, let's just scale that one down just a little bit. and reposition so it's more in line with where the finger was going. Same for the middle finger. Just realign that. And that one, and this little finger is definitely too big. So let's bring this all the way down here and just scale it a little bit again. Okay, I'm fairly happy with those fingers for now. Generally looks the right shape, so let's tackle this thumb. So the thumb's going to come out here. Now, I'm not going to just extrude it out and then out again, because thumbs don't tend to look like that. Again, you potentially could have a character that looks like that. If your character wants to look like that, okay, go for that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, if you look at your thumb, that's why I keep doing it, just look at my own hand. The thumb sort of comes out and grows up. So, I am going to extrude out like this, but I'm going to approach it just a little bit differently. We're not going to grow from here, we're going to grow from here. So I'm going to grab these vertices. I'm just going to position this a little bit more appropriately. So you can see that instead of this just coming out now, this is now, it's an addition to the hand, I suppose. So let's just grow from there, scale it down a little bit, and maybe rotate a little bit too. And there we go, that's going to be my thumb. Now, this isn't accurate to an actual hand structure, it just generally looks like it. Not that this is an area that I'm an expert in at all, but obviously the bones wouldn't match up. I think your fingers have got 3 bones in there and your thumb's got 2. We don't have to match it up realistically. As long as it looks correct, that's fine. We don't need to actually simulate the bones underneath. So, generally, in terms of the structure, I think I'm quite happy with that. I'm fine with that. I can already see a little bit around here, maybe in here, which I'm probably going to have to edit just a little bit. But first, I'm going to go over to my modifiers here, and I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier. And here we go. So, I'm going to leave it on just 1, because I think it's going to line up with my model a little bit nicer if I do. Now that I've got the general shape, I can start adding and editing bits. So, straight away, I don't like how this sort of comes in, so I'm going to pull this down there. It's going to make it nice and neat, like so. I think maybe my thumb, just going to pull that up a little bit. I'm not a big fan of how this sort of comes out a little bit, so I'm going to, there we go, pull that down there. And I'm okay with that. I think that's okay. Generally, that's okay. If you're not happy with how the fingers point, you can add a loop cut, like Control R here, and pull that up and let them round off just a little bit if you would like to do that. So they're obviously more rounded and less pointed. Yeah, I'll keep it like that. Yeah, I'll keep that. So actually, ironically, that does now match up with the bone structure of a finger. Alright, so I'm quite happy with that, I think. Let's start working on how the wrist is going to attach to my character. So I'm going to grab these and just pull them in just a little bit. Let's just pull down. There we go. Maybe out a little bit, like so. And just pull down that way. Okay. Well, generally, that's how the hand's going to look. So we can do a little bit more. So I'm going to just come here. I'm going to maybe just shape the hand, because right now it looks very flat, which hands sort of do, I suppose. But I'm going to just add a little bit more, I suppose, character to it. Add a little bit more realism. So I'm going to click on this vertex here. I'm going to enable proportional editing for a second, which is just this little circle at the top. And if I press G, it's about right. Let's just pull that out and just add a little bit of weight, a little bit more. It's not enough, I suppose. Yes. There we go. A little bit more. So the hand just bends a little bit. Just bends forward. And I'm going to do the same then with the fingers. So let's grab the fingertips here. I'm going to go to the front. I'm going to press G. Probably not as much there. Maybe about that much. I'm just going to pull these in a bit. Maybe rotate them around the x-axis just a little bit. So you can see now the fingers actually bend a little bit, which is quite nice. Makes it look a little bit more real. I'll do the same then for my thumb. I'm going to need to bring that down just a little bit. Pull that in. Maybe a little bit more rotation as well. Just got to be careful because that was definitely affecting that finger there. I'm okay with that. That's cool. I like that. That's nice. Control S to save. Make sure I'm going to do that for a third time. And I think we're ready to go. I might add just a little bit there to round that off. That looks okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's cool. So there we are. That's my hand. And I'm quite happy with that. So now's the time to actually line this up with the body and actually attach it to the body. Now, this is something you're going to have to do if you start adding bits, especially if they should be seamlessly added to your character, such as the head. We're going to need to roughly put these in the right position, and then I'm going to, what I call, stitch it onto my model. So let's have a go at this. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add another modifier, and I'm going to add a mirror modifier. Here we go. And this is just so I only have to do this once, and it's going to line up with both sides of the model for me. So let's bring this back in here. I'm going to go into edit mode now. Press A to highlight all of it. And let's pull the hands across. Perfect. Now, when we're positioning these hands, it's really important when we're in an A pose, our thumbs should be pointing the same direction as our feet. They should be pointing forward. So imagine you put your hands out and you spread your hands. Your thumb, as long as your hands are pointing down, I suppose, your thumb is pointing towards your feet. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to press R and Z, and I'm going to just type in 90, and that's going to automatically snap that 90 degrees. I'm just going to turn off proportional editing. And then going to go into the front orthographic view, and I'm going to just rotate so they roughly line up with my character's arms, like that. Perfect. Now, again, everyone's characters are different. But generally, I don't think many people would make characters with these massive, massive hands. I don't know, maybe you are. So I'm going to scale mine down, because I'm certainly not. Just get them roughly to the right size. So I think that's probably okay. That's roughly, yeah, that's roughly right. Okay. So I'm going to get my character's hands into the position where they should be, which is probably about there. So you can see that my arms are probably a little bit too long. So I have to bring those back up a little bit. So let's go to my character. Alt Z to see that vertex. And let's pull these arms just up a little bit. I'm going to just thin them down. Okay, so it's obviously not finished, but roughly there we are. That's where my character's hands are going to be. Now it's all about lining up how these are going to connect. So I'm going to try and do most of the hard work for me. I'm going to roughly line these up anyway. So if you look here, these definitely need to change just a bit. So I'm going to grab these. I'm going to say, bring them in just a touch. Perfect. I'm going to grab these here and just pull them up so they roughly line up, and then I'm going to do the same with the bottom ones just so they roughly line up. There we go. I think I'm okay with that. Obviously you can tell they're not connected yet, but we will fix that. I think generally that's okay. I don't like how flat this is still, so maybe I'll just go into proportional editing again and just maybe pull that up just a little bit. Potentially some more with this one as well, maybe. Pull it up. There we are, just so it looks a little bit more appropriate, I suppose. Down a bit. There we go, that'll do. That's okay. I can fix it some more bits later on. I'm going to pull these down again, I think. Turn proportional editing off. You can see now that I've moved those around a little bit, it's actually unaligned it again. So let's do that. I'm actually going to grab these and potentially pull that down there. And I think that'll probably be okay, but we'll see now. I think there may be a little bit too much of a bend there, maybe. Again, this is just me changing some little things and just making sure that I'm happy with them. You do the same thing, make sure that your model is appropriate to your character. That'll do. I could keep touching it, but we'll move on. Okay, so I now want to stitch these hands onto my character. So to do that, we're going to have to actually apply these modifiers and make sure that the character can be edited the way I'm expecting it to, okay? So, when we apply these modifiers, we've got to do it in a very specific order. We've got to do the mirror first, followed by the skin, followed by the subdivision surface modifier. It has to be that order. Mirror, skin, subdivision surface. For example, if I do this in the wrong order, and apply this first, suddenly my character becomes a boxy mess. And that's not what I want. So, mirror modifier first, skin modifier second, subdivision surface modifier third. And what you'll notice now, if I go back into edit mode, this now becomes an actual model. I can now edit and play around with all the individual vertices. It's no longer using the skeleton that we created underneath. So it's important before you do that, make sure that you're happy with the shape, because that's it now. We finalized it almost. Okay, we're almost ready to attach this hand. I'm almost going to go back a step though. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go into the wireframe mode. I'm going to grab the entire right side of my model. Now make sure that this doesn't go past your Z axis, the center point here. I want everything on the right hand side of that. I'm going to press delete. I'm going to delete all those faces. And I'm going to go back to my modifiers, and I'm going to add another mirror modifier. So I've just done that, so I can still access these. However, now it mirrors it perfectly. So I want the body to be symmetrical, which is really important. Once that's there, we're ready to start stitching this together. Now, I'm going to start off by cutting off the end of this arm. So, if I just hide the hands just for a moment, I'm going to take this here and I'm just going to cut all of this off. So I'm going to grab the little end there, delete and delete those faces. So now there's just an empty space ready for that hand to go in. And I'm going to show the hands again. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the hand. I also first, just bear with, need to apply the subdivision surface modifier, sorry. And all of this, delete the faces. That's what this do. Hopefully you can now see how this hand is going to attach to this arm. So I'm going to, in edit mode, select all these, and I'm just going to bring it as close as I can. Well, not as I can, there we are. I'm quite happy with that. And now I need to join these hands onto my body. So I'm going to click on the hands first. I'm going to hold shift and click on my body. Then I'm going to press Control J. Really important here. The last object that you click before joining will remain the root of that object. That's really important because we want to try and keep the center of mass, the center of our object, down here in the flow. That's really important. So make sure whenever you're joining anything to your body that you're joining, or you're clicking your body last before joining using that Control J. Right, let's stitch this up. So if I go to edit mode now and go into vertices, I can start aligning each vertice and stitching it on together. Now, this isn't the greatest thing for good topology. However, like I said at the start, we're not going to worry too much about topology right now. We're just going to worry about making this look how we want. So I'm going to click these two vertices here. Can you see how these probably should join? I'm going to press M for Mike, and I'm going to say merge at center. And it's going to connect those two vertices. So I'm going to go around, grab these two, and just start stitching this together. So these are a little bit off here, but that's okay. Let's pull this over just for a second. I'm just going to merge these. We'll fix that in a second. And now can you see how this, once we start going around the entire hand, is going to start attaching this hand to our character. There's a little bit that we're going to have to do here, so this one doesn't quite line up properly, so let's just merge that. This one should be here. I'll have to do a little bit here and merge these three together, hence why this is particularly great for topology. So just keep going around and just start stitching all these points together. Almost there. And done. Okay, so that's now stitched on. It's now connected to my character. So I'm just going to neaten this up just a little bit. I don't really like how this sort of bends very quickly, so I think I may just... I'll try proportional editing, actually, that might do it. Not too bad, that's a little bit smoother. That'll do for now. So there we go, there's my hands attached to my character. Perfect. Now I am very aware of how long this video is getting, so I'm not going to go through the process of creating the head. And what I will do, I'll link to a video which I often use to create a nice low poly head. And I'll show on screen now. This is an example of how I've created one in the past, and that character is based on myself. So if you want to go ahead, you can watch that video, and you can create yourself a low poly head, and then you can stitch it on just like I've shown you how to stitch on the hands just there. That being said, there's nothing wrong with keeping this just nice round head, depending on, again, what your character should look like. If you're creating a monster style character, I'd recommend going to find a tutorial on how to create a monster style head. If you're doing a dragon, then you can create a sort of dragon style head. Of course, you can also attempt to model it yourself and create something yourself and then stitch that on as well. It's completely up to you. So I may do the same. I'll create a little head here. I'll time lapse it in between the next videos. But get your character ready. Get your character to the point where you're happy with the different appendages, the heads, the hands, even the feet if you want to do feet. And once you're happy with that, you're ready to move on to the next video, and we'll start adding different accessories to our character.